absolutely privileged today to have Dr. Mariam join us virtually. So if we can move to Dr. Mariam, who I know is online, and who will share with us a brief presentation and sort of her insights into her extraordinary work and the impact that she has here in the UAE and around the world as a change maker, someone who is so influential as an Emirati woman, but also just as an Emirati, as somebody in the UAE who has been a leader and a mentor for so many. And it is our privilege to be able to not only share her insights, but after she does speak with us, I'll have the opportunity to ask her a few more personal questions about her journey and some of the challenges that she has faced along the way. And I guess as we come here today and as a collective to highlight the importance of mentorship and leadership, some of the experiences that she has had and how influential it can be to share that information and pass that on. And I know we have a few young Emirati athletes who are joining us here at the summit today. So it makes such a difference to be able to share that knowledge and our own experiences.
Thank you very much, Mercedes. I'm so privileged to be here with you online. I was looking forward to joining you physically, but unfortunately I had another commitment from which I will start. So only 2 hours ago, we had a very high-level meeting with Nobel laureate where we were discussing quantum physics in relation to genomics, which is a whole new universe. And again, coming back, I think only talking about women and women in sport, it's very dear to my heart. So I recognize myself as a GCC woman, not only Emirati woman. So when it's come to United Arab Emirates, usually in our country, we always like to have a roadmap and a national strategy. So in UAE, we have our national strategy 2071, when we're celebrating 100 years of establishment of my young country. So that is a reference which I will build my discussion today and my humble knowledge, where I'd like to highlight some of the area which is not very well addressed in the majority of the sport community or event. So I am a physician. I am specialized in genetics with a special interest in something called epigenetics and longevity. And to simplify it for the people, epigenetics is simply, it's a science where we address the relationship of our genetic makeup with the other factors, either environmental factor, internal factor, hormonal factors, all those factors. And we try to address it on the level of the DNA and RNA itself. So going back to sport, unfortunately, not only the sport, even in medicine, even in prescribing medication, even in all the clinical trials, unfortunately, they would do the trial without even bearing in mind that we as a female, genderly, we are completely different than the male. So for the past century, let's say 60 years, all the medication which is available right now, it was done on a human being, regardless if it is male or female. And you came to know with a better understanding about the importance of epigenetics, that the medication which works on a woman, it's completely different than a mechanism in the male, especially in the 5 days when she has a period and she will be under the control of estrogen and progesterone. And the same is applicable when she will go and get reports. You cannot consider the program for fitness, for increasing your body mass, for reducing your fat mass, exactly the same as a male and female. And before attending this session of discussing this with you, I did my humble research within all the literatures and medical references to sport medicine. There's a very humble study done to identify and differentiate between female and male during the preparation. And the other point which I would like to highlight as well when it comes to women in sport, it's the ethnicity. I am Emirati. I have roots from Yemen, and I have roots from some part of some part of Oman. So having this ethnicity makes it completely different than an European coming from Norway. So with all their epigenetics and genetic and ethnicity, our body will work differently. And on the top of all those, where we need to consider when we talk about the sport, especially for women, we need to bear in mind that we have around 5 kilo of microbiota, which play a huge role in whatever we will eat and how our body will react. So right now, there is well documented that there is some mutation on specific genes, which will help us to know exactly what time is the best for Miriam if she would like to increase her body mass muscle, and what time is better for her if she would like to reduce her fat mass. So these things are very evidence-based and very scientific. So that's why in the United Arab Emirates, and again, I was honored to be and privileged to be the first woman in the history of my young country to be Under Secretary of Public Health and Primary Health Care. And later on, I was the first woman in the history of my young city, Dubai, to reach the most higher position as a Director General, member of the Executive Council in Dubai government. Having all those level of foresight, panoramic view on my community helped me a lot to know that if we talk about the strategy, we talk about women health, and we talk about sport, we have to differentiate that element. That's why in United Arab Emirates, when we roadmap any strategy, we bear these two things in mind: ethnicity and gender. Not to identify people or cluster them, simply to be able to understand their biology and to make sure that we will help them in the right way, the shortest way, which will be suitable with them. So going back to sport, my request to such well-recognized organization, and especially when it comes to Olympic, we need to differentiate this element whenever we have a training program or whenever we are preparing any female in that area. Bear in mind that when we are born, after 6 months only, we will have a complete genome of ourselves. In the first 6 months, we will inherit, and some of the genes and blood of our mother will be there in the system in different places. While after 6 months, with one sample of buccal swab or blood, we can identify the ability of this child, if she can be an excellent swimmer, if she can be an excellent athlete, if she can be an excellent soccer, name it. And that itself is not against human rights as people usually promote. Simply, we are trying to use the resources wisely, and at the same time to invest the time and the money for that individual who can make the most benefit of such technology and a new understanding in medicine. The only point which I would like to highlight before receiving your question, Jessica, I'm specialized in longevity. So I started this journey back in 2011 when I went to Planet Jamaat, Japan, and I did my post-graduation there. So during that time, nobody, there is no single protocol clinically which says that if I'm using any of those supplements, or David Sinclair or name it, that I need to consider that during my period, I need to stop all those medications. During my period, I have to replace the B12 and B1. And if I will be in menopause, and if I will start any of those protocol where I maintain more stigma within my muscle, or I would like to increase my muscle mass by increasing the mitochondria, I need to do a tumor marker investigation and test. That's forbidden. If any of those tumor markers are activated and above the normal, if I will go through this protocol where I take a supplement, where I take a huge amount of protein, where I take a huge amount of creatine, and I'm not aware about the status of this tumor marker, simply I am feeding a tumor. So I'm feeding that tumor, and instead of developing the tumor within 4 years, unfortunately, she will develop that tumor within 2 years. These are the small elements, but very essential if we consider the ethnicity and the gender in sport. The final point which I would like to highlight, it's well studied and with evidence base that we as a female, we are more sensitive to the stress hormone, and we are more sensitive to a lack of quality of sleep, especially in athletes. So if we get two ideas, they are identical twins. One of them will make sure she will sleep at night before 10:30 she is in bed so she can make the case or proper sleep cycle of 90 to 120 minutes. And we will make sure that we will teach her the nutrition where the DNA and RNA of her microbiota, not her only DNA and her genetic makeup. And if we will make sure that she will have a proper intimacy relationship with her husband 1 day before the competition, if you compare this twin with the other one, which lack all these elements, there will be a huge difference in her performance and achievements. Nobody addressed the importance of intercourse, especially the intimacy relation for female. If she is going in, it's the other way around with a male. Usually they are advised not to have an intimacy relation. While with female, if she will have that in the night of her sport, her performance will be completely different. Simply why? Again, we go back to epigenetics. As epigenetic level, because when we have this relationship with our husbands, please make sure he's your husband, not a boyfriend. Please, okay? So you preserve the right of your children if there was a pregnancy during this scenario. So if she had a proper sex where he ejaculated in her vagina, there is some of the element which is present in his fluid will improve dramatically the microbiota in her vagina. And now we have a better understanding that the microbiota around our body, they communicate together. And the microbiota in our private areas, they are not only there to protect us or to maintain a moisture place. They are there also to communicate and make sure that the media are good for a specific type of product. And then we communicate with our ovaries, through which we can have more estrogen. And having more estrogen, that will impact your mitochondria. So you will have more number of the mitochondria in the muscle cell, which you need to achieve higher performance during your competition. So this is very brief, a very highlight of my presentation, which again, technology didn't help us to share it with you. But please feel free to share my presentation with the audience.
Well, thank you so much. It's very insightful and indeed quite fascinating. I think for many females in the room, we are aware of those significant differences when it comes to gender and ethnicity as well. And to a performance, but I think it's only been in very recent times that we've really delved into the research behind that and how that actually impacts day-to-day life and performance as well. So thank you so much for those extraordinary insights. I wanted to ask from a personal perspective, your role as a change maker and as a leader, not just in the health and scientific space, but in the UAE. What are some of the challenges that you faced and how did you navigate walking into a world and a space where women hadn't actually come before you, where you didn't have those role models and those leaders yourself to look up to? What were some of the most, I guess, memorable challenges that you have had to face in your time?
You know, Jessica, I always try to recall all those lovely women and challenging women as well. As an Emirati woman, I'm so lucky, so proud with Emirati gentlemen. And as you know, there's a huge difference between gentlemen and men. There is monkey male, there is donkey male, there is fly male. But right now, and I was so lucky to have a real gentleman surrounding me. And I do recall and the first day, like I was under secretary, I was only 28 years old. So, and one of the undersecretary, he always reminds me. He said, "Maria, you know, the day we were born, I graduated from legal college." I don't know, he's reminding me how old is he, or he is underestimating me how young I am. So during that time, I had to take it the way that I'm fighting for my right. I have to let them listen to this. With a simple advice from my husband, who is another real gentleman, He is the most handsome, the kindest person after my father in my life. So he told me, Mariam, this is not a healthy situation which you are in. Every day you are going to the work as you are going in the fight. This is not the right way. You have to deal with this in this culture. I said, please guide me, Karam. He said, Mariam, please try to treat all your colleagues who are elder than you as you wish to treat your father. And that was a sliding door for me. I start to know exactly if we respect our culture, if we have our own protocol in dealing with a gentleman around us, we can have a great support. So from that moment, I start being the last one who will speak in the room or in the meeting. I cannot imagine, Jessica, only by having this step. I had the idea from everyone, so I will analyze it. I will come up with another idea, which collectively getting all those ideas together. And in the end of the minutes of the meeting, it will be the familiar mother recommended so and so. And by default, 9 out of 10 meeting, my recommendation would be implemented. The other thing which I did, I tried my best to deal with them like my father, like as they are my father. So what I've done, Jessica, being young, graduated from Harvard Leadership School, graduated from Dubai Government School, being a team leader for Dubai Strategic Plan from 2008 to 2017, having all those humble experience and skills, I had to deal with negotiation, Jessica. You cannot imagine, Jessica, I have all these nice ideas about allowing patient with HIV to have the right to have the opportunity to work in a specific place with some guidelines, having the thought that any worker, before they come helper at home, they need to be screened in their home country for some infectious disease. Any marriage, any couple would like to marry in UAE, they need to do sexually transmitted disease and some common genetic disorders. These all were my initiative on a personal level. So having all these initiatives, which had a huge conflict with the community, especially predominantly to be male, I had to have a negotiation way. You cannot imagine, Jessica. I had to do a lobbying. So there were 6 under secretary, and I was number 7. I will do a tour in their room, discussing the thought with them, and let them know that this was their idea. I'm giving them all the credit, all of them, Jessica. So when we have a meeting with a minister, I have 5 people supporting me, and then we were waiting only for the minister to approve whatever I suggested it. And you cannot imagine, Jessica, the rest was history. I had a great support. It was like a safety net around me from a real gentleman who helped me to serve my community, where I was advocating for 6 legislation, which right now in place, is supported by the government. Nobody gets married in my country unless they are screened for sexually transmitted disease. As a female, I saw the suffering of my patient, especially me as a female. We should be virgin when we get married. And the boy, oh my God, they will have 80 days around the world, Jessica. Name it. Not only the place they can enjoy, not the sightseeing, they can enjoy many other things. Sorry to say that. So they will come, and I will be so protected in my father's family, and he will come easily, giving me either syphilis or herpes or HIV or hepatitis C or hepatitis B. And I will come to know after I'll be pregnant, and I'll go to the doctor, do my test. They will say, Mariam, oh, you have hepatitis B. How come? Simply because nobody tested this guy. And you cannot imagine, it was not easy to get this legislation approved. So it was a big challenge, but I'm so happy and I'm so privileged that Allah gave me the chance to be a good reason in many other lives in my country with the great support of a gentleman who I was able to deal with by simply respecting my culture and respecting them and sharing knowledge with them and sharing credit. So these are some of the things I've always tried to remind myself and remind the new generation please, as a female, never imagine yourself you are going to fight for your rights. Our male, our gentlemen and GCC, they are so kind. They care a lot about women. But if we are able to communicate with them in a way which shows respect, shows kindness, and shows love.
Thank you. I think you've covered so many different things in just those few short questions and responses that you've given. And I think it's important to speak so frankly and so openly. I think the work that you're doing is obviously groundbreaking, not just for women and the community here in the UAE, but around the world. But it is interesting because we often talk about sport mirroring society and vice versa. And with the examples and the scenarios that you shared with us, you mentioned the support of the men in your life and the allyship. And we've discussed that here this morning at the summit already, the importance of being able to have people around you in your team who support your goals and your ambitions. And so
Jessica, if you allow me, this is a very important point also I would like to share to the rest before we finish this discussion. Jessica, I make sure I work through a team where minimum 50% of them are male. You know why, Jessica?
please,
Can you guess?
I cannot, but please share. No, I'm very interested.
Yeah, Jessica, it's well known scientifically. If you would be with a woman in the same room for 40 days or 2 months, you will end up having your period in the same way. All of you. Try to do this experiment in your workplace. Start your period, when does it start? And then get in one office together or in one place, you will end up having your period in the same week. And one of the decisions which I regret till today, and nobody taught me in the leadership. Now I'm promoted for it, and even I asked my colleague in Monash University in Australia, they did a lovely publication about that. Nobody told me that I should never ever take a decision in one day before my period or the first day of my period, and not to invite my mother-in-law during these 2 days.
I agree with that.
So nobody told me, simply because we have our biology, we are under control of this exploration and fighting with the estrogen and progesterone. Fighting itself will give us some sort of instability. So I make sure that my team, 50% of them male, so they can help me in taking the right decision. God forbid if I have to take it during those 2 days. And I always make sure I work for the team, so they are aware about everything. Even if I am not there, it will be continued and they will have the same outcome.
Can I ask as a final question, Mario, where is your resilience and self-awareness and courage and bravery and hunt front to be able to step out and participate socially, professionally in this industry that you're working in? But I think if you can sort of tie it into sports and performance on a broader level for everyone here in the room, how is that something, or how are those skills transferable? And why do you think the skills that you have as a professional and as a woman are so important for upcoming athletes and women who are wanting to work in the sporting sector in particular? We know that there's such a synergy between sport and health, science, and the public health area that you're working in as well. So what would, I guess, be your final words to everyone in the room in regards to how those things come together and how we can continue plowing forward? Because we know that still we have a long way to go when it comes to equity for women in sport, but women in general. So I know that was a long sort of question, but what would be that final statement to people here in this room who have been, I guess, very not so much entertained by the things that you had to say, but really taken aback by the honesty and the way that you've been able to share your insight and your knowledge with all of us here today?
Thank you very much for the long question, Jessica. So my answer will be short. I'll tell you something which I discovered when I went to Planet Japan. When I went to Planet Japan, I discovered the Chinese civilization. Chinese civilization, it is the only civilization which are till today are written and read. If you go to Sumerian and if you go to Quran, there should be a professional people who can read the documentation. While in China, it's still the same documentation, which is 5,000 years old, can be accessible and understood by anyone. So when I went to Japan and whenever I would see something, they would give me some reference from 1,000 years in Japan. And when I studied medicine in Northwest Medical College, our reference was all European and American. Even all the books, textbook was from UK, US, Navy. So when I went there, I came to know that there's something called wealth of civilization documentation. When I go and read, let's say about, I'm somewhat interested, but I am 49 years old, but my biological age is 16. So my ninth year is my rank. So I want to make sure that after I preserve my overview, where I still have my period regularly, alhamdulillah, 5 times per month so far, alhamdulillah, so I was interested to know exactly how I can address and take care of my hormones. That was when I was 37 years old. So when I went to read about only hormones in Chinese civilization, Jessica, I would be end up reading about many foods and how it's important to link it to the moon, if it is full moon, half moon, what time you need to take it. Then suddenly I would find myself reading about the importance of time of underwear you will wear during your period. And suddenly I will be shifting to a place where I need to know exactly at what right side or left side I should sleep. And then suddenly I will be reading about lymphatic, how it is essential for any female. If she stands up for more than 4 hours, she needs to come down and lie down and elevate her feet for 10 minutes. I ended up reading about everything, and I was only interested in one event. So the Chinese civilization, I believe it helped me to literalize. And if I take a subject, it should be a panoramic view with some strength and humble listen. And I read a lot. That I love myself, Jessica. I will never give my Friday, not to my husband, not to anybody. I sleep very well. I sleep before 10 o'clock p.m. And if my husband would like to enjoy his life, he should do it before 9 o'clock. I will, my mother, she often tells me that you attended your wedding. It's all in Dubai, but I don't attend any wedding. Unfortunately, the wedding in GCC starts after 4 o'clock. So I always go in one day prior that and give the gift to my friend or my sister, and I never attend the wedding. So these are some of the secrets which I discovered, and I would like to share it with all of you.
Well, we are very grateful, and I'm not just thanking you. Spoken like a true leader and a true mentor, Your Excellency, Dr. Mariam, we're very grateful for everything that you have discussed with us here today, everything that you have shared. I think there's a lot for us all to ponder and reflect on. But everything that you have done from a personal level and professional level is something to be truly humiliated. We are very honest that you were able to share with your time today. So thank you so much. And we look forward to continuing to follow your research because it is very, very big that the gender differences when it comes to performance and sport is something that is ending. So thank you so much, Dr. Mariam. Ladies.
I think if anybody from the audience are interested, I'm not promoting it. Some of the supplements which I take from Japan, they are so affordable, so accessible for women to maintain their youthness and to maintain their health. Let me know if anybody is interested. I can share with you those lists.
I see a few hands going up, so I think you will definitely reach that. So thank you so much, Dr. Myself included, who will be in touch. Thank you, Dr. Mariam. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for asking me. Have a lovely day.
Goodbye.